Hello and welcome back. You're listening to Unreliable Sources, your bi-weekly briefing for mystery lovers, thriller junkies, and suspense addicts. I'm Mike Donohue, thriller author and crime fiction fan. Let's get into it. On today's show, we're diving into the hottest headlines from the world of crime fiction, including some exciting news about adaptations coming from Netflix, the Obama's next big TV project, and a library game that's making national news. We'll also run through a few of the best new books hitting shelves this month, take a look back at the transformative crime novels of the 70s, and I'll let you in on what I've been reading and watching lately. All right, let's roll. Let's kick things off with some recent headlines from the crime beat. First up, while it's not strictly crime-related, this NPR piece about the Ann Arbor Public Library's summer reading game is a must-listen. Locals are doing scavenger hunts, tracking down hidden codes, and earning points just for reading. Reading. When was the last time you heard that? Honestly, if you're a book nerd like me, it sort of sounds like heaven. The Wall Street Journal has published their picks for the 25 best mystery novels of the past 25 years. Some solid choices here, but as a hardcore fan, I found it a bit underwhelming. Now, I'm probably not the target audience for this type of list, and they set some sort of ambiguous rules. The list favored writers who had come to the fore, quote, in recent decades over more seasoned authors. Though I think you'll recognize most of the novels and names here, and many are from what I would consider seasoned authors. Still, I did find two new-to-me ones to add to my teetering TBR. All said and done, it's a good primer if you know somebody or yourself are just starting to dip into the genre. Barack and Michelle Obama's production company Higher Ground has picked up the adaptation of S.A. Cosby's All the Sinners Bleed, about a small-town sheriff navigating racial tension and a serial killer. Wakanda's Forever Joe Robert Cole will serve as writer, showrunner, and director, though I believe Cosby is involved as an executive producer. It will be a series, not a movie, and it will hit Netflix, though no release date has been yet announced. But when it does hit, it has must-watch for thriller fans written all over it. Cosby's prose and action set sequences are already very cinematic. Really looking forward to seeing what they can do with this one. Other news on the adaptation front, August is stacked with mysteries and thrillers. We've got She Rides Shotgun, based on the Jordan Harper novel, which won the Edgar for Best Debut back in 2018. That will star Taron Egerton and hits theaters before, I'm not sure where it hits streaming. Hits theaters first. Go see it in theaters. Then there's Caught Stealing, based on the novel, the first Hank Thompson novel by Charlie Huston. This one's directed by Darren Aronofsky. Looks like a bit of a departure for Aronofsky, but I do welcome the return of Huston. I read a whole bunch of his novels. He's also a comic book writer. I read a whole bunch of them back in the early aughts, and then he sort of disappeared or faded out. So glad to welcome him back. Austin Butler will star as Thompson in the movie. Again, theaters before I believe it is scheduled for Apple TV. And finally, if you haven't already marked it out on your calendar, or your parents haven't already marked it out on the calendar, the long-anticipated Thursday Murder Club movie with Helen Mirren, Pierce Brosnan, Ben Kingsley, and others drops on Netflix August 28th. Now let's take a look at what's new and notable on bookshelves in the next couple months. Sheepdogs by Jordan Snowden has been getting a lot of ink lately. A gritty, character-driven debut mystery about a high-stakes heist that goes wrong, of course, with an ex-CIA operative and a special ops pilot stuck in the middle of a game of espionage and survival. This one promises to play with the tropes of the genre, part thriller, part buddy comedy. I'll be honest, you had me at high-stakes heist. I'm a big sucker for heist plots. Next up, Mississippi Blue by Eli Cranor. Given the tone and tenor of his first two well-received books, at least from the blurb, this one feels like a bit of a swerve from Cranor. The start of a series with a young FBI agent caught in the tangled web of a college football empire. Then again, college football in the South seems like a ripe recipe for some Southern noir. Next, Departure 37 by Michael Kurita, writing as Scott Carson. I've always enjoyed Kurita's PI books that he's written in the past. I will admit I have had some up and down experiences with his Carson pen name, but I will give him credit. He always comes up with an intriguing premise. Finally, we have Mrs. Christie at the Mystery Guild Library by Amanda Chapman. This one's a cozy, and I couldn't resist including it. It looks like a high-concept mystery where Agatha Christie herself returns from the afterlife to solve murders in modern-day Manhattan. It's out August 26th from Berkeley, and honestly, I'm sort of surprised that nobody has thought of this before. All right, on to this episode's feature. Let's talk about the decade that quietly reshaped the genre. Crime fiction and the 1970s. Now, I've read a lot of mysteries and thrillers from the past 30-odd years, and of course, I've also read many of the big classics and Golden Age mysteries. But I'll admit, one big hole in my reading resume has been the crime fiction from the 60s and 70s. So in order to close that gap, I've been raiding the library and local used bookstores for pulpy-smelling paperbacks from John MacDonald, Chester Himes, some early Scudder books from Lawrence Block. And it's been a fun and fascinating ride to see how the genre remade itself during those years and evolved into what it is today. The raw, socially conscious themes and morally complex characters that define 1970s crime fiction would eventually give way to the more polished procedurals, serial killers, and courtroom dramas of the 80s and 90s. But understanding this pivotal decade, I think, helps explain how we got from the drawing room mysteries of Agatha Christie to the suave PIs of the 40s and 50s, and ultimately to the gritty global realism of modern crime fiction. Now, I think what set the 1970s crime fiction apart was its shift towards moral complexity and psychological depth. Gone were those tidy whodunits of the Golden Age. These were darker, grittier stories about flawed protagonists navigating a chaotic world. Writers like Block and John D. MacDonald gave us anti-heroes who wrestled with guilt, addiction, and shifting notions of justice. I believe the decade's social unrest, Vietnam, Watergate, civil rights, also left its mark on the genre. Crime fiction started folding in social commentary, whether it was institutional corruption, racial tension, or urban decay. The mystery became less about solving a puzzle and more about understanding the people involved and the systems that might have failed them. This new realism didn't just change how crime fiction looked, it changed what it felt like, and it laid the groundwork for the genre's next big evolution. Now, some of the iconic series that defined the decade. Travis McGee was one of the most popular that emerged in the 70s by John D. MacDonald. The series followed the adventures of Travis McGee, a self-described salvage consultant and amateur detective who lived on a houseboat in Florida. Lee Child has called McGee a spiritual predecessor to Reacher, and I know numerous other writers, such as Stephen King and Dennis Lehane, have called MacDonald an inspiration. Additionally, Lawrence Block's Matthew Scudder series gained popularity in the 70s, featuring an alcoholic ex-cop turned private investigator who navigated the gritty streets of New York City. Of course, Robert Parker did much the same for Boston with his Spenser series. Finally, another notable series was the long-running 87th Precinct by Ed McBain, set in a fictional city and featuring a diverse cast of detectives tackling a wide range of cases. McBain's realistic and gritty portrayal of police procedurals, coupled with his intricate plotting, made the series a hallmark of crime fiction in the 1970s. Crime fiction's influence from the 1970s extends far beyond the mystery genre itself. Television shows, films, and even literary fiction have adopted techniques first perfected in the pulp paperbacks of this era. The anti-hero protagonist, the urban setting as character, and the integration of social commentary with entertainment value all trace their roots back to the innovative crime writers of the 70s. For anyone serious about understanding modern popular fiction, exploring the rich landscape of the 70s crime fiction world remains an essential and rewarding journey. Now, if you're ready to dive into 70s crime fiction, here are what I consider 5 essential crime novels. Number 5, 10+1. Ed McBain. This is book number 17 in the very long-running 87 Precinct series, but is notable and admired as one of his best plotted books. Number 4, Promised Land. This is book number 4. This is where it really feels like Parker's Spenser series finds its feet and hits its peak. This is the one that introduces Spenser's longtime frenemy, Hawk. Number 3, Cotton Comes to Harlem by Chester Himes. This is book 7 in the Harlem Detective series. Number 2, The Sins of the Fathers by Lawrence Block. This is Scudder's debut and still one of the best in the series, in my opinion. And finally, you might be able to guess it if you're familiar with the genre, The Deep Blue Goodbye by John D. MacDonald, the first Travis McGee, and it really feels like the birth of a new kind of American private investigator, introspective, rootless, and morally complex. All right, before we wrap up this week's episode, here's what I've been reading and watching. Right now, I am just started the latest S.A. Cosby, King of Ashes. Very excited to check this one out. It's been getting a ton of great reviews and seems like another home run for Cosby. On audio, I'm listening to Joe Country by Mick Herron. This is the 6 Slow Horses novel. After Penny's Gamache books, this is my favorite mystery thriller series to listen to on audio. The narration by Gerald Doyle is just a treat. And finally, I am just about to wrap up. I have 2 episodes left of Smoke on Apple TV. This is the series created by Dennis Lehane, based on Firebug, the true crime podcast. I will say it takes a little bit of patience. I'm not sure if Lehane hadn't been involved, I would have hung on. But if you do get through the first 3 episodes, it really begins to pay off. All right, that's it for this episode. Let me leave you with this week's question. What did you think of my 1970s picks? Do you have any other pulpy paperbacks you prefer? Let me know in the comments or drop me a line. I'd love to feature reader answers in future episodes. You can email me at Mike Donohue Books. That's DONOHUE, MikeDonohueBooks.com. Or find me on Blue Sky at MikeDMystery.bsky.social or on Instagram at Mike Donohue Books. This has been Unreliable Sources. I'm Mike Donohue. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay sharp, follow the clues, and don't trust anyone who skips to the end.